Welcome back to the Real News Network. I'm Sharmini Pires coming to you from Baltimore. I'm speaking with Chris Williams of Pace University and Steve Horn of DSmog blog. We're talking about President Obama's State of the Union last night and the missed opportunities in his reign over the last 7 years in terms of transforming our economy to better reflect a green economy given the environmental disaster that we are all facing. Chris, I'm going to go to you in terms of that lost opportunity first. When President Obama inherited his presidency from George W. Bush, we were going through the 2007-2008 financial crisis, was still lingering in 2009. And there was a lot of stimulus and bailout packages rolling out in order to deal with the economic crisis. And that was an ideal opportunity to begin to transform our economy, in keeping climate change in mind. And that's now a lost opportunity since he didn't actually do that. I'm wondering what he could have done and whether that kind of a plan could still be implemented.
Yeah, it's a good question because, I mean, it's not a coincidence that the 2011 Occupy movement came up with a slogan that they got bailed out, we got sold out, and who was getting the bailouts were the big banks who caused the problem in the first place, which Obama actually referenced last night, but then has since initiated the trillions of dollars that moved in their direction, and also bailed out the auto industry. And it's now more profitable, according to him last night, than ever. And what could we have been doing with that money? Because the effects of that implosion of the economy globally are still being felt by ordinary people all over the place in their tens of millions. But the banks and the big corporations are reaping some of their highest profits ever. So what could have been done instead? Well, if we were going to bail out the auto companies, I mean, those are highly skilled workers, high-tech factories. We could have transitioned those factories and those workers into producing things that we actually need, like train track, trains, wind turbines, solar panels, etc. That would have been quite easy to do, as is shown in precedent through the Second World War when they made that kind of transition, except to something they really wanted to do, which was win a war, in months. So I think that that's absolutely one of the things that could have been done. He never let the tax cuts on the rich expire until very recently, which he said he was also going to do. And we should have been raising taxes on the rich and actually collecting some income tax from the 2/3 of corporations, large U.S. corporations that currently don't pay any. So if he was looking for some kind of legacy, some kind of transformational change in the way that the United States consumes energy and produces it, then that would have been a great start, along with retrofitting houses, along with pushing way more money into what he likes to call the green economy, but only drops a pittance into, when you compare it to the amount of money going to the Pentagon, for example, to continue. I mean, people growing up today, teenagers, have never lived through a period when the U.S. has been at peace. So I think that this is a horrifying thing to think about, aside from the level of inequality, the level of racism under the first black president, coming from the police, where they just behave with complete impunity, and has risen other social protest movements to try and combat that. And it was great to see actually today in Albany, there was a joint protest of low-wage workers and climate justice activists. So I think that that is actually a more hopeful sign than what Obama has left us with.
Steve, President Obama mentioned the oil and gas resources and putting it to better use. What did you make of that?
So this is this is a debate that's been going on in the United States for a long time. It's something that the oil and gas industry and the coal industry has pushed hard against, and that is royalty payments, and what do taxpayers get in terms of the production and what percentage, and everything that goes into that. And there is a strong possibility, there's at least a slight possibility that the Obama administration could do something on it this year. There's been a lot of grassroots pressure on this issue. There's been pressure by groups such as Greenpeace USA, which released a whole report on this issue last year as it pertains to coal. And so it remains to be seen what the Obama administration will do. I've heard that in the next week or two, more specifics will be released by the Department of Interior. But all of that said, what this actually means in terms of a reform is it does not have anything to do with the fact that less oil, gas, and coal will be produced or consumed. It simply means that at least if it is produced, that some taxpayers will get maybe more of a return on it potentially. I guess, of course, the dirt is always in the details, so it remains to be seen. But there has been a pretty decent amount of grassroots pressure and green NGO pressure on this issue. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see if the Obama administration at least rolled out some sort of proposal. Whether or not that can get through Congress is, of course, a different question.
Now, Chris, earlier you referred to the Occupy movement, and I remember actually in September when the great climate march occurred in New York, Bernie Sanders made this very important analogy between money in politics and the environmental crisis. And he said that until we take care of the problem of money in politics, we couldn't resolve the issue of climate change and seriously dealing with it. And moving forward, we are obviously going into a serious election campaign year. Do you think that Bernie Sanders is pursuing that mission if he were to become the candidate for the Democratic Party?
No, I mean, if he really is serious about that, then he shouldn't be in the Democratic Party. I think that what his role is to corral everybody who may have thought about independent left politics, and that's really what we need in this country, back into the fold of the Democratic Party as the answer. But I mean, surely we've learned over the last several decades that going back into the Democratic Party, you don't change it, it changes you. So I don't think that is in any way, if he is a genuine socialist, he should leave the Democratic Party, because that is not the answer for working people. We are not going to see the kind of change that we need brought forth by him within that organization or that organization in general, regardless of who leads it. So I think it's really a question of building independent left politics that takes into account the intersection between social justice and ecological justice. And we're not going to get one without the other. So that means we have to take on the corporations. It also means we have to take on the state, because it was the state under Obama that decided they'd had enough of some genuine democracy on the streets and squares of the United States in 2011 and closed them all down with the use of force. So we also have to think about what is the connection really? What is the purpose of the state in relationship to capitalism?
And Steve, let me give you the last word. Do you think Bernie Sanders has a better platform to deliver on climate change, and he's true to that sentiment he expressed during the climate march in New York?
Well, the platform's much better than Hillary Clinton, but in terms of the role he plays, I can't say I disagree with Chris on this one, especially since in one of his very first big national media appearances of his presidential run, he went on ABC on a Sunday morning news show and said, if he does lose in the primary, there's no doubt that he will go ahead and support and endorse Hillary Clinton. That really goes to show, I think, how serious he is in terms of building an independent left. I don't think that anyone who's serious about building a progressive movement can then go ahead and say, well, let's go support Hillary Clinton. If you just look at the policies she supported and the policies that her husband supported, going back decades to when he was governor in Arkansas. And so I think that's the reality that we're dealing with. We'll see what happens with Bernie Sanders' run beginning in February, but the odds are highly stacked against him by any mathematical equation. The DNC, of course, boxed him out of having any serious platform in national debates. They scheduled these debates often at times where it would ensure that the least people watching at that time. And so I think that really goes to show how democratic the Democratic Party really is as well. And so, I mean, the long story short is these next several months will be very interesting to watch in terms of the politics of how progressives are corralled into voting for the Democratic Party, for example, how the Democratic Party positions itself against people like Donald Trump and the GOP. And so we have a lot of, I think it'll be an exciting and interesting thing to watch, but not exactly the most promising in terms of what could ensue in terms of who's elected.
All right, Steve Horn will certainly be watching that campaign. And Chris Williams, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And thank you for joining us on the Real News Network.